Welcome to the video tutorial Spring Dependency Injection example with Java config. With me, Nam Haming from codejava.net. In this video tutorial, you will learn how to configure dependency injection in Spring Framework using Java-based configuration or Java config. Spring Framework allows us to make dependency injection using XML and annotation, but they have some drawbacks. With XML configuration, the XML make our code to verbose, and though it makes the business classes independent of string API, the nature of XML makes it hard to navigate through the dependency relationship among classes when the application code grows and becomes more complex. For example, let's see the XML configuration in a Spring dependency injection project. Here you can see this is the XML configuration file, application context.xml. You see the dependency injection is configured using XML bin tag here. And if you want to understand how the application logic works, you have to read the XML and read the Java code to understand how it works. So because the XML is separated from the code, it's difficult to navigate through the code to understand the dependency among classes. And with annotation, the business classes depend on Spring Framework API because we use annotation within the classes. For example, in this project with Spring annotation, you can see in this class, business class A, we use the add component annotation and add autocorrect annotation. This makes the class depends on Spring Framework API for the annotations, you see. Therefore, Spring provides a Java configuration approach for dependency injection, which can eliminate the drawbacks of XML and annotation. And with Java config, business classes are pure and easily to trace the dependency. Now let's see how dependency injection can be done with Java configuration in the Spring. This is a class diagram of the code which we will create in this video tutorial. First, we have the class client A, and this class client A uses a service interface, and we have different implementations of this service interface. For example, service B, service C, and service D. And the class client A has a reference to the service interface through instance variable here. And this is the code of the client A class, service interface, and implementation service B, service C, and service D. You see, an implementation of service is injected to the client A class via constructor here. With Java-based configuration, we need to create a configuration class. For example, you can see here, you don't have to put annotation on the business class anymore. Instead, you have to write a separate Java class that acts as a configuration class to configure the dependency injection. You see, the class is annotated with the add configuration annotation to tell Spring that this class is a Spring configuration which have the method that returns a bin instance. You see here, this get client method returns a new instance of the client A class, and the bin annotation is used with to specify the name of the bin is client1. And the second method, get service, returns a new instance of the service B class as a bin with the name service1. And Spring, we inject the instance of the service B into the constructor of the client A class here. You see, the name of the parameter here, service1, must match the name of the bin in this configuration file, service1 here. You see, it should match. So that's very simple. We just need to create a configuration class and use the annotation configuration and bin, and we don't have to use XML or write annotation in our business class. Now let's see how to implement our code in Eclipse IDE. Here's my Eclipse IDE. I have two projects, one for XML and one for annotation for reference and comparison here. Now let's create a new project. Maven. Create a simple project. Next. Group ID is init.code Java. Artifact ID is Spring Dependency Injection Java config. Finish. Change JIE to Java SE 1.8, and we need to add a dependency to use Spring. Click Add. Group ID is ORG Spring Framework. Artifact ID is Spring hyphen context. Version is 5.0.2 0.2. Release. Not sure I remember the version correctly, but don't worry. Let's check this project for the version of Spring context. Dependencies 5.0.7. Edit 5.0.7 release. Okay, and save the file. Save the pom.xml file. This is the content of the Maven pom.xml file. You see, if we use the Spring context dependency, this is the minimum requirement to use dependency injection with Spring Framework. And you can see Maven automatically downloads the required jar files and adds them to the project's class path here. Now create a new Java package here. net.code Java. This is a code example to be used in a project. First, we need to have an interface for client. Client finish. And this interface defines only one method, void do something. And then we have an implementation of this interface called client A. A super interface is a client interface. Okay, finish. And then we create the second interface for the service. Right click here, new interface, name is service. Oh, finish. And this interface defines only one method, change get info. And now let's create the first implementation class, the service B class. New class name is service B and its super interface is service. Okay, finish. And this method simply returns a string. For example, service B info. Now in the client A class, we have a reference to the service interface here. Private service service and generate a constructor. Right click, source, generate constructor using fuse. Click OK. And in the do something method, simply invokes the get info method of the service interface. Service get info and prints the info to the standard output. You see in this client A class, it doesn't have any reference to the service B class. You see, it only refers to the service interface, and that means it can work with any implementation of the service interface. It cares only that it works with a service object, you see, and the actual implementation is inject passed to the class via its constructor, you see. Now let's create a configuration class to configure the dependency. New class. The name is, for example, app config finish, and we annotate this class with the add configuration annotation. Here, add configuration, and we write as a first method that returns a bin to be managed by Spring Container. Public. This method returns an object of service, interface service, get service, return new. Service B is an implementation of service, and annotate this method with the add bin annotation, and specify the name of the bin. Here we specify the name of the bin is service 1. So when Spring Framework scans this configuration class, it will call this method and put the return object to be managed in the container. The next method, we create an instance of the client interface, public client get client. To inject an instance of service to the constructor of the client A class, we have a parameter here, service 1, return new. Client A is an implementation of client interface, and we pass an instance of service to the constructor of the client A class. Here you see the name of the parameter here, service 1, matches the name of the bin here, you see. So Spring can automatically inject the instance returned by this method to the object client A, and this method is annotated with a bin annotation, and we specify the name for the bin is client 1. That's it. This is a very simple example for configuring a dependency injection using Java config. Now let's write a simple Java program, a class with main method to test out the dependency injection configuration we have made. I'll click here, new class, name is Spring Dependency Injection Java config. Check public static void main to create the main method. Finish. To load the configuration class app config, here we need to create an instance of the application context. Application context context equal new. We need to create a new instance of annotation config application context annotation config application context and pass the configuration class in the constructor here. App config class. You see, when Spring creates a new annotation config application context, it scans the app config class to detect the dependency configuration, and then we can obtain a bin from the application context. App context get bin. For example, we get the bin name client1 we specify here. This returns an instance of client interface. Client1, and we need to add a cast and invoke the do something method on the client1 do something. Now let's run this program. Right click, run as Java application. You see it brings service B info. That means our dependency configuration is working as expected. You see an instance of the client A class is created and an instance of service interface is injected to the client1 bin here. Now let's create another implementation of service interface. For example, service C. Its super interface is service. Okay, finish. And this method simply returns a string services info. Now you can change the implementation here. So in the here you can change to service C and run the program again, and you will see it prints the services info. You see it prints services info. Now let's write another method to create a bin instance of service interface. Public service service 2 return new service C. You see in this method we use the add bin annotation without specify the name of the bin explicitly, and when we omit the name of the bin, Spring we use the method name as a bin name. So in this method the bin name is service 2. Now let's update our program to get an instance of the service interface named service 2 from the container. from the application context here. Context get bin service to service to equal get cast to service, and we call service to get info and print to the standard output. Now let's run the program again. You see, the last line prints services info, which from this statement we get a bin with the name service2. So in the configuration class, when we omit the name in the bin annotation Spring, we use the name of the method as the name of the bin. Now let's create another method to instantiate an object of the client interface. Public client get client 2 client 2. So we use default naming convention bin. So this method Spring, we use a method name as bin name. We return a new instance of client A class. And here you can create an object of service C, our service class, and inject to the constructor service D. We create a new implementation of service interface service D here. Sorry, here I want to demonstrate to pass in the instance of service 2 here. So this should be service 2 service 2 and you can see these two methods. We use default naming convention. This method return a bin with name service2, and this method returns bin with name client2. Now let's get the bin with name client2 here. You can copy this and change the name to client2, and this should print service C info. Run as the application, and you see it prints service B info. Client A service 2 service 2 service C we get a client sorry, this should be client 2. Mistake of copy and paste. Run as the application, and it prints service C info. You see, correct, right? Let's create another implementation of service interface. For example, service D interface service this method return service this info. And now in the configuration class, let's write a new method, public service get service to use the bin annotation, return a new instance of service D class. And now you can also specify multiple names for bin using an array of string here. For example, the first name is service 3. So for example, this would be service 3. Service D SRV. You see, here we specify 3 names for bin. So one name is a primary name, and other names as aliases. Spring alert to do this. So in this test program, we can get that bin service 3, right? Service 3. Service 3 get info here. You see this line we get bin name service 3. Service 3, one of the names specified here. Now, run the program again. You see it prints the service D info. Now let's change the name to another name, for example SRV here. SRV, and run the program again. You see it also brings service D info. That means we can use multiple names for a bin. And we can have multiple configuration classes in our application, or more than one configuration classes. For example, I create a new configuration class. For example, app config 2. Finish. Annotated with the configuration annotation, and I copy this code here to the second configuration class. So you see we have 2 configuration classes, app config and app config 2. And in the program, to load these 2 configuration classes, you can specify the additional classes as additional arguments for the constructor, because this constructor is a variable argument constructor. Here you can specify app config 2 dot class, and run the program again, and it does the same thing. You see. Another way you can register this class after creating an instance of the annotation config application context. For example, app context. To use a register method, you need to use the class reference register, and the name of the annotated class, for example app config class and app config 2 class. And after register, you need to refresh the application context. refresh. Now let's run the program again, and you will see the same result. You see, you can call multiple times for the register method. For example, app context register. You see. Now let's run the program again, and you should see the same result. You see, same result. So that's how to configure dependency injection with Java config in the Spring Framework. I hope you have found this video tutorial helpful to get started with Spring Framework from its core concept, dependency injection. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.